This is the talk of Music City real estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monty Moore with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carrie Ann with CMG Financial and My Mortgage Team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow along and subscribe at talkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Monty.
Carrie Ann, welcome back. Welcome into the 2023. I was barely getting used to writing 2022, and then somebody said, hey, you know, that's 2022. No, it's no longer counting, so you got to change that number. So anyway, I struggle with that. And we have an awesome guest with us today.
We're excited.
Hello.
We're going to talk about a topic that most realtors don't find themselves talking about, including myself, and that is the future of your life. And so Tyler Johnson is with Peachtree Planning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Peachtree Planning. It's a mouthful, by the way.
Peachtree Planning.
Peachtree Planning in Tennessee. Yep.
And so I got to know your mentor a little bit. And what we want everybody to do is consider what it would look like if you had a plan for your future. Not just winging it, not just flying by the seat of your pants like I have for the last 29 years, pretty much. But, so real quickly, what happened with me was one of our agents came into my office, shout out to Kara Hermes, and said, I want you to meet this guy. He is opening my world up to the future as far as, investments, investment properties, and, what I want my life to look like 10 years, 20 years down the road. And I'm thinking, holy cow, how come I haven't done that before now, And so in sitting down with Tyler then and saying, okay, well, how can you help an old guy like me? He hit on some points that were very poignant to Connie and I as far as planning for the future and what does it look like and how do you leave a legacy? And I mean, I have no intention of getting out of real estate anytime soon, but someday they're going to want to get the old guy out of the way, I mean, they're going to want to do that. And, I don't tell people this because it was a painful moment in my life, but a guy that I was down in Florida, I don't know, a couple years ago, and I ran into a guy that I used to work with down there, and bless his heart, and no offense to anybody, please, but bless his heart, he's probably, I don't know how old he is, but he was walking in with a walker, and could barely hold this file under his arm because he was dealing with his walker, and he was still selling real estate. And, I don't want to be in that place. I want to talk about, okay, how do I keep from being the place where at 85 years old that I've got to still be working,
right.
We've got to think about the future. And unfortunately, as real estate people, we don't always do that. I don't know if maybe mortgage people do better than.
No, I think we all live in the moment, right? And we're just trying to survive tomorrow and the market of what it is. And so to even take a moment and think through what 5, 10, 20, 25 years, would look like. I mean, my thoughts are if I took the time when I was in my 20s to set myself up for my 40s, it would look a lot different, right? And so now thinking in your 40s, what you can do to set yourself up for your 60s, et cetera, right? And I think this is a huge win. And so we're grateful to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You'll laugh at this, Tyler, but my business plan was, I don't want to be working when I'm 60 if I don't want to be working. Right. That was my plan, okay? That was as far as it went.
Sure.
Was I don't want to be working.
And we celebrated his 70th just last couple weeks ago.
And so when 60 came along, and trust me, guys, this thing happens way quicker than what you think. It's like one day you've got a little kid, the next day that kid's got a kid, and then lo and behold, that kid's got a kid. I got great grandkids now. I mean, this happens that quickly, it feels like. And so now I've moved that. I don't want to be working when I'm 80 if I don't want to be working. But that's where I go back to the older gentleman that I ran into recently that he and I used to work
together.
Well,
you're young, 70, so.
That's right.
Early in the year, new year,
That's right. So tell us a little bit about you, Tyler, as to, what brought you to this point in life and why should someone that's in the real estate industry be listening in today as to how can you help them potentially? Okay. So how'd you get
Yeah.
Tell us about you. I know you used to play baseball.
Oh, yeah. It's been a heck of a journey. So just to give you guys a little bit of context, I grew up in Southern California originally, northern Los Angeles area, right on Simi Valley, and lived there till I was 18. Was lucky enough to go play baseball at Stony Brook University in New York. Got a baseball scholarship. That was kind of my original path. Wanted to play professional baseball.
What position did you play?
I was a pitcher.
A pitcher?
I was a pitcher, yep. So, was lucky enough to be, first academic and consensus All-American my senior year in college.
Wow.
Took my team to the College World Series, but in doing so, I ended up having 2 broken vertebrae in my back and a busted hip.
Wow.
And so I played professional baseball for 3 years after that with the A's organization. And then by 23, I retired. So I've been through 1 retirement already.
Right.
Already. So,
and it sounds like a body beat up too.
Yeah. When you get to that point in your career, it's either one of 2 things happens. Either you get lucky enough to stay healthy for a longer period of time, or you just fizzle out, even the most talented guys in the world, So, I moved back home. You can imagine at that point in time, I didn't quite know what else to do. I knew I'm from a family full of teachers, so I knew I wanted to teach originally. So I took a year off. Then went to coach in junior college and worked in actually in an adaptive aquatics department, so a workout facility for people with disabilities.
Oh, wow.
Did that for 2 years, really loved it. But as I told you guys before, pre-show, property taxes in California will kill you.
Yeah.
So my wife and I bought a home, got the first bill on our mortgage, and we were like, we got to get the heck out of here as fast as possible.
Sure.
So she's great.
Let me ask you a difficult question, all right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm known for that, okay? I'm going to put you on the damn spot here.
Is.
You didn't bring any of those that crazy belief from California here.
No,
did you?
no, of course not.
And he did that, and he went there. And he went there.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching this is I got to get a haircut like tomorrow. So
anyway, I'm just kidding, but not really. Okay. I mean,
it's there's always both ends of the spectrum. There's a lot of endearing things about California, and I tell my wife all the time if I had lived in California in the 70s or 80s, I think
which
I
did.
Yeah,
I'm from California.
Thought it was amazing.
Yeah,
right.
It was.
But as soon as I got to the point in my life, I was like, I just got to leave. It just 11 million people living in one area. Traffic, taxes just destroys you. Not to mention the fact that someone who's a millennial trying to purchase a home, $800,000-$900,000 for a 1,500 square foot place.
Right?
It's bananas.
So share. So you and your wife moved here, and so how did you get into the financial planning world?
Yeah. So originally I was teaching here for a little bit, but then it didn't quite work out, and I figured, I really enjoyed helping people. I really enjoyed educating people, and I just didn't really like the relationships I had when I was in professional baseball with financial people. It was very kind of transactional. It was very put money in a fund and we'll talk to you every couple of years. So when I got approached by Peachtree Planning, it was just a very different model. It was a model of care. It was a model of understanding how people's lives have been, how they want to be going, and looking at people's entire financial picture and assisting them over a longer period of time. So I really I love our boss. It's amazing to have him in the office.
Corky's a good guy.
Yep. Corky
Dawes. As much as I thought you were probably okay, he brought a whole level of confidence, I guess, to the party. I mean, without much, as old as I am, and he's been doing what he's doing as longer than I have, and so maybe I needed that just to really, because for me to embrace this right now, because I have waited so long. That's why I'm trying to encourage you not to, you the listener, not to. Is I've waited so long, and so now I've got to get serious about it if I'm going to have any sort of retirement.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so continue on.
No, and that's a great again, I'm a firm believer in quality management. I'm a firm believer in people who care about you at the office. And Corky and his son Dustin, who runs the office, they're amazing people. So that's one of the reasons I like being there, like staying there. But you're absolutely right. That's where especially people that are 35, 36 years old, if you are successful at what you do now, if you have had a good last 5, 6, 7 years, especially in the real estate world, did you do enough to weather the storm?
Right.
The potential storm. When we don't know it, every time I get up, I read an article that says, the recession's coming in 6 months, or it's going to last 3 years. It's going to last,
And who knows? Who knows what tomorrow looks like?
Right. And if you live through, I lived through the 2008 one. My parents lost a good majority of their investments during that portion of time. And so you saw the challenges that took place there, but that was a good thing though, because all of us that did, hang on in that during the time, we've
try to make some adjustments. One of those adjustments is paying attention, so we're ready to do what Carrie Ann does, and that's pivot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think so many, and they say there's such a large number of folks that are not prepared for retirement. And many people that I talk to does not matter what they make within their paycheck. They live paycheck, to paycheck. And so as we approach this new world, that possibly is what some of us know to be normal, but some may be feeling it as a major shift. You're feeling a lot of the financial pressures, right? Where we used to be able to do whatever we wanted to do, and now we aren't doing that. We're making some cuts. We're compressing on some things, but again, we still have to think about tomorrow. And what does that look like? You referenced, I want to work for so long? I think your spirit and mine is probably to always be working, whether that's in the garden or, working on this or that, but, having that drive to continue to work, but hopefully not for the purpose of I have to make $1. You're just being able to work because you are able to make $1, right? And so planning for the future is key, especially when we are true business owners. And that's the thing is what we want to start to continue to get through our mind is that we are the CEOs of our own business, which means we get to set up our future however we wanted to make that, look. I'm really blessed. My mom back in the day would always take 50% of my money. Yeah. And I thought she was stealing it, actually. And, whether I made $5 babysitting, she got $250, and all the things. And I'm very grateful
you were on
now.
a tough split.
Yeah.
It's like a real estate office charging a
she took, but again, when I turned 18, I got my money. But she taught me the importance of a savings, right? And so, I've always been that. But when you meet another individual that was never brought up with a savings, like the concept of to save is not one that comes natural, right? That was engraved and very painful from my upbringing for many years. But now I get into that rhythm where I don't like to touch it. It's over there. It's not touched. It is for a rainy day or something that can better, help leverage future growth, opportunities down the road. So share all the things. It sounds like you specialize with working in more of the real estate community.
Yes. Yeah. So it just so happens this past year when we've been doing succession planning with people, we've run into a few real estate developers in the area that need our help from a variety of perspectives. And just to give you a little bit of background about the succession planning, it's exactly what you're talking about, which is when we run into business owners, especially small business owners, usually in the $1 million to $100 million space, throughout the life of the business, there's very little money being pushed out to the personal side. All of the money is being reinvested back into the business. And so you end up at age 55 or 60 thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to get a certain amount for my business.
Right.
And the question is, are you going to actually get that amount?
Right.
And who is going to pay you for that?
Right.
And so if we start to look at the metrics behind it, an outside sale, someone coming in to buy your business, there's like an 8% off a 20% chance that the reality of that is going to happen. So people usually transition to a loved one, they transition to a child that doesn't want to take over, they transition to a key person, or they come back and go down with the ship, essentially.
Right.
So what we want to do is exactly what you were referring to, which is provide options from the very beginning to say, hey, not only can we base this off of maybe you selling your business at some point in time potentially, but also you have enough over here to not really care about it as much, or to go work in your garden, or to go spend time with your family while not worrying about the maintenance of your life's work. But
I think this sentence here that you wrote as notes, Tyler, is really something everybody ought to think about, because I mean, it does speak to the heart of the matter. And I think focusing on building and maintaining your business rather than thinking of it as simply a transitory career.
Yeah.
God, that is so true in the real estate industry. People think of it as a transitory career. It's I've always liked real estate. I've always liked watching, shows about real estate, this kind of stuff. They don't really understand the career part of it and treating it like you said earlier, and like Jason says all the time about, is this a business? Are you truly just interested, or are you committed to making this a career? I think if you're committed to making it a career, I think one thing you're going to do is think about the future. What does this look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and not simply swing at the from the seat of your pants as a transitory one.
Right.
Yeah, and I think some folks get confused when you talk about $1 million business. Well, you are $1 million business when you close $1 million, right, within your transaction. And so it's easy for you to think you didn't make $1 million, but you do have $1 million business. So you should be running it, like a major business. Now, the basic or the average loan officer and or real estate agent, we're not going to be selling our book of business, but potentially you could, the way you set it up, if you think 2 steps ahead. I mean, there's all things that you can do. But again, like you referenced, you may not be wanting to do that, but you can be setting yourself up for success for all of that to work for you for many, many years to come. A gal that I worked with for years before she retired and was able to let her name speak for itself for 2 full years before she didn't make $1. 2 full years, right? I mean, and she worked really hard over the 35 years to be able to allow for that to soar for many more years, right? And so that was kind of like her business paying for itself over the latter part. So what would you guide that real estate agent? Maybe it's the average, or maybe someone who has a larger team, and or maybe somebody that is moving towards investing and developing, and or the owner here.
Yeah. So first and foremost, if as early on as you can get it, make sure you're able to protect yourself, right? By any stretch of the imagination, you are your best financial asset, your ability to generate income, bring in more business, and grow your business over a longer period of time. So doing things like getting the right insurances, disability insurance, life insurance at an early age, making sure you can transfer these things on to other people, and then starting to identify quickly who those people are around you who can take over your business and keep it running potentially. So the best thing we can offer someone as they continue to transition out, even if they don't have a business that's, again, worth $5-6 million, is if you have people around you that can run the business and still give you a paycheck on the back end, right, while you're sitting in the Cayman Islands somewhere enjoying your lifestyle. So that's where, again, depending on your situation, depending on where we find you in your life, that's where our recommendations come in. And that's why I really enjoy the comprehensive planning, because it allows us so many different avenues to help you down. But again, protecting your income, hugely important. And then being as liquid as possible in these situations, right? And most people I run into, the liquidity is sitting in a bank account somewhere, right? Which banks love that, by the way, right? They're lending your money out at 10, 12% to you. Right. But, have things in places like investment accounts. Depending on how your retirement accounts are structured, that can be kind of tricky depending on liquidity needs. So, we focus a lot on maintaining enough liquidity over a longer period of time so you can really go through these economic downturns, but also come out on the back end a better business owner.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what you just recently did by changing your mortgage and setting yourself up for success, which is going to be saving you thousands and thousands of dollars in your interest, right? Which then in turn allows him to have more equity, which in turn allows for more financial growth. Right. So there's multiple things that you can be doing across, the access here.
Yeah, I really love it. I mean, it's a little bit of a hassle, just to be real, a little bit of hassle to go through your stuff, and it's not what you'd like it to be at 70 years old, but it is what it is. I mean, let's all face reality. It is what it is. But to have that, written down then and categorized and saying, okay, you have this in this column, this in this column, and what happened to this column, and this kind of heart-to-heart, real life conversation. I told Connie after the first time that we met on our Zoom meeting that, one thing about this, it's generating a power of, an empowerment of now not just ignoring where we're at, but facing where we're at and then coming up with some ideas on how to, make it better. Yeah. I'll never forget, in 1997 is when I left Florida to come up here to Tennessee, and I had a good business going on down there. I was making about $450,000 a year. Imagine that, back in '97, and I hired a business broker who said, "Yeah, your business is worth about that amount of money, about $450,000." And I'm thinking, okay. So in my mind, I had $450,000. That was my savings. That was my life. Then I found out this little element here is that selling goodwill is not worth a whole lot. Yeah. You unplug, if you've got the goodwill and you unplug yourself from that equation just abruptly like that, without taking somebody by the hand and helping them build it for years, to then transition maybe that way. Instead, I was convinced that, anyway, won't talk about the music career and all the things that were going to be accomplished in that. But I was married to somebody at that time that was, was great where she was at, and came here and things didn't work out. But the point is that $450,000 a year business I had going on, it netted me $27,000 when the dust cleared.
Right.
Somebody gave me $27,000 for the furniture and the stuff, and some listings that I had. And it was such a rude awakening. I promised myself this go around, whenever that happens, again, nothing happening soon, but I promised myself I would do it far more smarter this time. Because one of the things I've seen happen as well is not only that kind of mistake, but I've also seen agents my age just let their business kind of peter out. Mm-hmm. Rather than maybe bring on a partner and start keeping it moving, keeping it, really that database,
right.
Staying top of mind.
I think because we get tired, right? I mean, over the last so many months, I think with the industry changing, many of us may be awakening to, wow, I've been exhausted, right? I just kind of stopped my business, or I let it stop, and so taking the time to, like you said, stop, feel the pain of reorganization, structuring, and really planning. And I love that empowerment to see what could be tomorrow if you just made small tweaks, and adding like a financial coach, right? Somebody kind of guiding us in the direction of what steps are the right steps. We're all very successful in our own lane, right? I kind of giggle going, I'm good at this. I'm really good at this. I'm not so good at that and all the other things. And so I do need to connect, right? Get the hand holding from another who can kind of help guide us in making those hard decisions. And I think that's the other thing too, right? There's some decisions that are a little more difficult to make, and maybe we sit in limbo because we have to make a decision and we choose not to because it's just easier not to, right? And your guidance, it gives us the direction to make that decision.
As Monty will attest to, from talking to Corky for a couple, we spend hours talking to people about what you want to do with your money. There's not one person I interact with that I recommend the same things to, because everyone has a different view on their money, a different growth mentality. I have a person that wants to get into the cotton candy business right now. I'm like, hey, if the metrics make sense, let's go for it. You're
cotton
young.
Candy.
I know, right? It's delicious, right? So, but you nailed it on top of the head. And I think until you get everyone in the same room, until there's some coordination behind things, you never have those conversations about what you want to have to do with your money. And also, what you're speaking about, by creating a team around you and having that team support you in your exit, that takes 6, 7, 10 years to really accomplish, because you have to ensure that, 1, those people are going to stick around, 2, they're financially compensated enough to want to continue to run your business. And there's a whole lot of other factors that go into that. So, when we first spoke, it was, hey, we usually like to go 6, 7, 8 years out, but let's talk, because we can do a lot of good, we feel like. So
and one thing I loved about you and Corky's conversation with us a couple weeks ago was, let's talk about the why. And that's basic for many of us. We know the power of start with why and so forth. But watching this master at work, I had to smile, because I could ask you why, Tyler, why do you want to do this?
Sure.
And he'd say, well, tell me more about that.
Yeah, he's a wizard, tell
me more about that, Tyler. And he asked like 3 layers deep. It was really impressive. I've sat there learning from a guy who, he's a master at it. But from a standpoint of, look, this is your plan. This is your world. This is your life. Let's talk. What do you want it to look like?
Sure.
And why? What why is going to power that process? What do I need to remind you of that's going to help you stay on track? He was taking notes. He knows what our why is. He knows that Connie wants to be able to give. He knows that I want to make a difference as long as I'm on the planet with an industry that's treated me really well over the last 39 years. I want to make a difference. I want to leave a legacy. I want to, what people remember, the tall gray-haired guy who helped them in their real estate business. That's what my why is. Well, how are you going to make that happen for the future? So I really love the process of interview, and it wasn't, hey, fill this out, wham, bam, thank you, and get on down the road. And it was it felt like a heartfelt interview process, and it's been multiple processes, so.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he uses the word important. Because the really deeper question is, you can say something, but how is it important to you? What about this is important to you? And a lot of people, they've never had that conversation before. They don't
exactly.
They've just never been sat down and asked those questions. And yeah, he's an amazing mentor to do that stuff with, and we learn a lot from sitting in conversations with him every day. But
I don't want to sound crazy, but I think it's actually even helped Connie and I's relationship. Because money is obviously one of the biggest, dividers probably of one person sees one thing and one thing's a priority or whatever. But I think, honestly, I don't want to, give him too much credit, but I think he's actually.
I'll tell him when I get back today.
Helped our, and not that it was hurting or something, but I feel like we're more in line now of heading the same way together. Maybe that's what it is. I think that's where the empowerment comes from, is being on the same page together with my spouse, that this is where we're she doesn't have her plan and I have my plan, and we don't cross paths because we don't want to, whatever, but. I do appreciate that.
Well, and I think along those lines too is I've been asking a lot of younger people, because younger people ask me, do you have these same conversations with people that are 65? I go, absolutely. Because if you do it now, it's, as you alluded to, it's way easier to take care of this over a longer period of time. But, I've been asking a lot of people about their philanthropic ideas. Do you want to give money to someone when you pass away, when you are no longer working? Do you want to provide? Because as business owners, you're providing not only for yourselves and for your family, but for all the people that work for you. So if you were unable to do what you were able to do, you're unable to provide the service, then what happens to all the people underneath you?
And that's one of our biggest, and honestly, that's going to sound corny, but that's one of our biggest whys, is we love our staff so much, and we have such awesome relationships with many of our team members that responsibility is as big as anything, probably, as crazy as that sounds, sometimes, because, people will come and go in your life, and you have to be okay with that, because if you're coming from a place of contribution and love and you want the best for them. But that's a big part of our why, is we love the people that we've surrounded ourselves with,
Yeah, so, I think that's a big reason why when we first conversed, we got along really well right off the bat. And that's why I like working with Kara, because when we conversed about some of those things, me and her connected immediately because of her background, how she feels about people and assisting people and connecting people. And that's really that's really the heart of Peachtree Planning at that point in time.
So tell us more about why a realtor watching this would be interested in your services, Tyler.
Yeah, I think it comes down to everything that we just spoke about. I mean, it's if my question becomes, when's the last time you had everyone sit in a room and talk about your finances, between your CPA, your accountant, the lawyer potentially who set up your operating agreements for your property that you're developing? How many times have those people all spoken together? And are you as tax efficient as you believe? Are you as protected as you think you are? Right. So, and from this perspective, a lot of the real estate people out there listening are 1099 people. Right. So there's no various insurances. There's nothing to protect your income. There's nothing to say what happens if I can't do what I need to be doing for my family, for the people I care about. So we start there because we believe that's the most important thing to take care of right off the bat. And if you are searching for something like that, sometimes you're going to be searching for it in kind of a piecemeal manner. You might go to 17 different places to find the answer to the one thing you were looking for. So we try to bring it all under one roof.
I love that you guys kind of cover everything. Yeah. Or you have a direct resource that does. So how can somebody who's interested, watching this and interested in knowing more from you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my email address is tyler.a.johnson@peachtreeplanning.com. That's a lot of words.
Say that again.
tyler.a.johnson@peachtreeplanning.com. And then
your number is your direct number.
That's my direct number. Yeah. So if I call you, it's a Los Angeles number, so it looks like I'm spamming you all the time. But it's actually 818-263-7610. So text me.
Say that again.
818-263-7610. So text me, call me, shoot me an email. Love to have a conversation with you, see if we align. Again, especially if you're worried about this coming year and what your finances look like from a comprehensive perspective. If you're a person that's a business owner, definitely call me because as we spoke about, we can do a lot of things to help you transition out in the manner you want, give you a lot of options, as long as you give us the opportunity to have those conversations.
Yeah, I do encourage everybody to consider the topic here, what we're talking about, whether you reach out to Tyler in Peachtree or somebody else, get that topic on the forefront and don't keep putting it back like I did over the last, 70 years, basically. because the time goes by so quickly. We all know that. I mean, it is, again, now already 2023. I don't know what happened the last few years, let alone last year, But the best defense is a better offense. The better offense is approaching the topic with eyes wide open and arms, ready to embrace the reality, first of all, so then we can move that reality to the direction that we want the most. I mean, they're not miracle workers, but maybe they are. I don't know. I'm looking forward to just being on the right path here over the next several years, so that we do have. So I don't have to be out there schlepping folks around when I'm 85 years old.
Hey, they say, plan the work and then work the plan. That's right. What you guys are doing.
It starts with planning the work.
We're definitely, we're very grateful that you have joined us today. Learned lots, and definitely I think it's something that you want to look into for sure, no matter what age you are. Start early. We're grateful that you were with us today. Can't wait to have you come back. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.